time and that they're excited about it. He gets excited thinking that the old man got worked up just from seeing that. Suddenly, he notices that the Soul Clan director is impressed by something right behind him and thinks he shouldn't be that impressed. Captain Huang is impressed, wondering who that is and why he seems so calm. He calmly observes the screen until he notices something that surprises him and he thinks, that boy. On the screen, our hero appears relaxed. The general is surprised that he hasn't dropped a single bead of sweat and wonders how he can't see his aura and how he's able to hide it. Our hero thinks he wanted to drink now, but he was smart to drink that beforehand on the terminal. It shows he's free of any abnormal status and environmental factors. He thinks that according to the exam rules, if he's caught, he'll be immediately eliminated. But if he's not caught, there's no problem at all. Among the people, some are heard asking when it will start and that they're dying. Suddenly, a bracelet on everyone's wrist begins to react. And a voice says that all candidates have been confirmed, and for now they will reveal the conditions to complete the first 4, which are deemed appropriate. Candidates must hunt 20 swamp orcs. Then suddenly our hero dashes off in one direction. One of the candidates curses and says he won't lose. He runs panting through the underbrush, but suddenly encounters a stone in his path. The boy crashes face first into the ground. Looking at a water source in front of him, he says it's a damn swamp. Not believing and happy at what he sees, he asks if it's water and that he can finally live. He crawls on his knees toward the water source and puts his hand in to scoop some up, but realizes the next moment that it wasn't water, and a sticky worm grabs him, using its mucus that resembles water in the swamp to trap its prey. The bot says that candidate number 94 has been eliminated and that emergency protection will begin. The creature suddenly begins to swell, and his head explodes, with the man appearing inside a force field. That candidate is gently lowered to the ground, and the bot says it will maintain that until the eliminated recovery team arrives. In another corner, someone continues on their path. Our hero continues advancing through the forest. Looking to the side, he thinks he doesn't seem to be there, so he speeds up and moves forward. The rescue team arrives at the scene and begins the recovery of the eliminated candidate. Suddenly a sound plays on their communicator. He looks at the device which says that number 104, Han Dae Sung, is being tracked. The rescue guy is surprised and wonders about number 104, Han Dae Sung. Finally, he spots a swamp orc, and the monster seems to have seen him too. He says it's a waste. You want to throw a rock at its skull. The orc looks at him with an aggressive expression. With that huge rock above him, he asks if the monster doesn't think so too, calling it a pig. The creature lets out a roar of fury and charges toward our hero, but suddenly that huge rock appears above it, and Dae Sung punches it to give it direction. The rock shatters into several pieces, and each of the pieces hits the orc, creating a loud crash in the forest and throwing everything into the air. While our hero stands on the battlefield, someone seems to be watching him from hiding. The man thinks that this is number 104, and that when they ordered him to track this candidate, he thought he was insane. Looking at the body on the ground, our hero thinks this is the 6th, and the hidden man thinks he's certainly not inferior to a rookie from a major clan. Dae Sung says that hunting them one by one isn't being very efficient. He says he didn't want to use his mana so early, but he can't help it. Then he uses his power to summon the Shadow Specters, and gives the command for them to carry out their mission. In another area of that tropical forest, right there, in the middle of the dense and humid jungle, some orcs seem to have noticed something. So they prepare for battle, weapons in hand. They'd wait and are a bit surprised at not seeing anything. One of the monsters tells the other to wait, and says he should be a bit more patient if he wants to eat a tasty prey. Something starts falling from the ceiling onto them, and the amount of that stuff falling increases. Then one of the orcs notices something, and our hero appears behind them. Dae Sung says he's starving because he had to dig through the ground. He says he can see that, but still can't understand it. One of the orcs says the meal came by itself, and the other confirms that's right. Dae Sung starts counting the orcs and says that if he looks closely, there must be more than 20 there, and asks what they're trying to say with K-the-Y. The Flame King tells his lord that they see him as a meal and asks his lord to give him the order. Looking at that bunch of orcs, he says those guys are hilarious. Then our hero finally gives the order, telling him to burn them all. Somewhere else, outside that area, someone moves through the forest. Sho uses her aura opening skill and creates a protective field around herself. As she moves forward, she uses Expand Search and expands her aura to locate her targets. The next moment, she realizes she's found one. Then she quickly changes direction, heads toward a tree, and pushes off it with force. Right after, an orc flies through the air, and the girl appears with her aura and sword in hand. She concludes that at this pace, she'll be able to complete the first floor in 1 hour. The orc gets up and tries to run away. Realizing this, she prepares to strike him, and charges at him saying, "Fourth." But someone is faster than her and decapitates the creature before she could do anything. She looks back in shock, and sees the guy from the Hogma clan with a frightening expression. The creature falls to the ground, defeated, while Jim watches her, and Sho realizes it's the guy from Hogma. With a look of satisfaction, he says 5. Annoyed, she says, as expected of the Hogma clan, stealing other people's prey. He says they're competing, so what would be his or hers? That she's a girl dumber than an orc's head. Sho says that if all he can do is steal other people's targets, he won't be able to do more than give them a bit of fun, and asks if it's a tradition in his clan to have such a filthy mouth. Jim asks if her clan created a tradition of becoming idiots 2 years ago. The two candidates stare each other down. He wonders if he should kill her, and that she's worse than he imagined, realizes no, he should wait until the second part on the second floor at least. Jim continues to glare at the girl who mocks him. Then she turns her back and walks away. Giving him the finger, she tells him to go play alone and calls him an idiot. Furious, he thinks he's going to kill her. Then, overflowing with rage and power, he charges at the girl. A huge crash is heard near where they were. There the guy seems to have stopped and the girl remains with her back turned. He seems confused, not understanding what happened. And the girl seems equally surprised. The two candidates look around trying to understand. And right after, a massive flaming explosion occurs nearby. A few minutes earlier, our hero held his mighty stick, and the Flame King asked for his lord to give him the command. Then Dae Sung finally gave the order, burn them all. On the terminal, it shows that the Hellfire Sword activated Skill 1 of Hellfire, triggering its special skill slot. The flame begins to emerge from the tip of that stick, and the terminal informs that the first special ability of Hellfire has been activated, and a huge blast of fire erupts from the weapon, while the Flame King says, "Spectre." The orcs stare in shock at it, and the next moment, a massive fire explosion is seen above the forest. From the control room, the staff are shocked by it. The bot announces that candidate 104 has completed the first floor requirements and will now provide the coordinates for the second floor, while everyone in the room is stunned. They ask how long it's been since the exam started, and it's already over. Another asks for that candidate's information quickly, saying they want to recruit him as soon as possible. The captain thinks he already expected that he wouldn't be ordinary, and that he never thought could be this bad. Meanwhile, the general of the Hogma clan looks worried. He turned away, annoyed not to see it. On the screen, another huge fire explosion is shown. All the operators are impressed by that power. Shaking the guy, the attendant says that's why she said what she said. She thought he wasn't a normal person. The man says he already got that and asks her to please stop shaking him. Another one stammers, asking if this is really real, then says it's fine, but they wonder why old Ginseng is there. He approaches and picks up an orc axe. He stands there in the middle of those dead monsters holding the weapon. When he realizes that one of them is alive, he runs over to the orc and gets ready to attack. He keeps hitting without stopping, counting 1, 2, 3, saying this is delicious. Excited, he says it's the 11th and says it was great following that trash number 104. The operators can't believe what they're seeing, thinking it's so cowardly, questioning if it's cheating, and the other says he doesn't know. The test theme is adaptation. But he says the old man is a normal person who couldn't even pass the awakening test in the first place, and asks how he managed to enter this test. The girl explains that on that day, Han Dae Sung broke several measurement spheres, and the staff member asks what she means by Han Dae Sung. She gets furious, while the guy apologizes and asks what it is anyway. She explains that it's just a rumor, that he asked them to invalidate the result once he broke that sphere, and the man asks, and then says he heard that he sent a large number of complaint articles to the association, and it must have been because of that. Giving the girl a flick on the head, he tells her to say things that make sense. Explains that no matter how many times they sent complaints, it's not enough. An older man appears and apologizes for their hard work. The three bow and ask why the branch manager is there. The man says that person was approved by him, and this shocks the other staff members. One of them asks how he could. Then the manager explains that 3 nights ago he received reports that he was caught trying to sneak through the portal with bombs strapped to him. The woman asks if maybe he was trying to commit suicide because he's not awakened, but the manager says no. Explains that he lost his whole family in a portal fracture a few years ago, so this must be for revenge. Everyone goes silent around him. One of them says that if this whole story had a favorable consciousness, the system might collapse. The other 2 start whispering while he tensely asks if he said something wrong. And the manager says that's it. In general, this is absolutely impossible. But that person is the one responsible for the incident the other day. He got a 3-month pay cut, but feels okay because it's like he found a gem. The operators question why the monitors are acting strange and order to contact the support team. On the big screen, our hero is shown. Sometime later at the test site, 2 men in suits arrive, and a telecom device flies in one direction. The general says the control room must be a mess right now, while the other man picks up the communicator. He asks if candidate 104 wasn't supposed to be removed from the 2nd or 3rd floor, but the general responds that was before Jin's opponent got ahead of him, and questions what he means by removed, saying it sounds scary. But he says he was just curious about his potential, so he created a small challenge. That guy thinks, a small challenge? Elsewhere, another person receives a message. On the communicator it says to inject the mutation and pools into the monsters on the 2nd floor. The lackey says, it's a shame, number 104, your talent was excellent. That's why you shouldn't have been so hard on what the Harem clan director had set up, and then he fires his weapon. And it's a creature dead on, and a very loud roar is heard through the forest. This catches our hero's attention. He thinks the entrance to the 2nd floor portal is nearby. The general of the Harem clan thinks it's better if he dies in this challenge. That creature starts to change and goes into a frenzy. Rock fragments fly in all directions, and the monster now appears covered in rocks, becoming a floating swamp golem with the ability to create mist. The creature roars, using its power, and begins to manifest a thick fog, while the soldier thinks he needs to report this immediately, and that he'll need a good amount of extra pay. He grabs his hidden communicator from behind the tree, when suddenly that device explodes in his hand, releasing smoke. He realizes it's a paralyzing agent. The weapon falls to the forest floor. He crouches down, coughing in the smoke. And suddenly that huge creature is right behind him. Our hero keeps walking through the forest. He thinks he's walking in circles, always passing through the same place. He checks his equipment and realizes he's dead. He wonders if that body could have been an accident, that he doesn't believe this was prepared by the test organization. When suddenly he senses something behind him and wonders if he was caught off guard. A bunch of rocks fly in his direction, and skillfully he turns and defends himself from that attack. Without him noticing, one of the attacks gets through and comes very close to his face. It's a different kind of projectile. It hits the spot and explodes instantly. Dae Sung defends himself as best as he can from the explosion. He thinks it's fire absorption, but then realizes it feels more like mana absorption. Either way, he can't use the ability he used against the orcs. He can't use it because it's on cooldown, and it shows 1 hour and 27 minutes. But it doesn't look like that thing will wait for it. The monster starts summoning those projectiles again, and fires them all at our hero, who defends himself with his weapon. He keeps striking and dodging all the projectiles thrown by the creature. Then he pushes forward and charges, leaving those things behind. Thinking that this is getting boring, he decides to attack the main body. He runs through those projectiles and approaches the enormous stone golem. The monster releases smoke while waiting. Dae Sung prepares his attack against the creature. The monster, in turn, also prepares to attack. He hits the huge golem dead on, but didn't expect to be hit by it as well. It seems the damage he caused was very little, but he is sent flying from the impact of the creature, breaking trees along the way. He flies far, leaving a trail of dust behind. Elsewhere, someone tears pieces off some creature, Jim eviscerates some creature there. It was the remains of a defeated orc. The bot says that candidate number 14 has completed the requirements of the first floor and will receive the coordinates to the portal to the second floor. He thinks he lost a lot of time because of that one. It seems something catches his attention, and he glances over his shoulder. A white object falls behind him. Quickly, he catches it in the air, and opening it, he thinks it's a vial, a special compass, and a note. Looking at the paper, he wonders what it means. Then that paper catches fire, and he realizes that bastard number 104 is still on the first floor. Back to the fight, that golem watches its opponent. It summons those projectiles again. Dae Sung starts getting up after the powerful blow he took. He says that took a while, and excitedly gives the command to the Phantom Shadow. He orders it to devour that thing. Preparing with his weapon, he says to clear the way. Meanwhile, the projectiles fly in his direction. The shadows go to meet the attack, and flames rise above everything. Our hero launches a fire attack toward the projectiles, leaving those things in flames while the shadows grab and devour everything. Smiling, he says he'll give him double what he did to him and sends the shadows in. Our hero simply watches as those shadows move toward his opponent. They advance carrying those flaming projectiles. They start to compress into a pool of shadows, and the monster roars furiously, charging forward. It rushes our hero, passing over that pool of shadows, which suddenly launches a bunch of shadow spikes outward. The creature is caught by surprise by that. Several shadowy hands stretch toward the monster, holding those flaming projectiles. Dae Sung says, "Take these fine stones." Meanwhile, back in the operations room, it seems they're managing to recover the test footage. Someone says the screen has been fixed, and another says candidate 104's screen is back, and someone tells them to zoom in quickly. Someone asks if the image was fixed, and another says there's fog, while someone else questions if the first level wasn't supposed to be a rainforest. An operator tells them to be quiet, something's appearing, and on the screen a huge stone golem is shown. They're startled, wondering what that is, and if it's part of the test. The manager questions what the examiners are doing. One of them asks if that's supposed to be right, and no matter how you look at it, it seems like a mutation. He questions if they should stop this right now, since the emergency protectors aren't invincible. The manager is speechless, worried about it. The guy calls for the branch manager. He remains silent while the man insists. One of the men says they just received a signal from candidate 104, and that the examiners were told to stay around him. He asks if they should force an interruption of candidate 104's test. The manager apologizes and says he can't help with that. The surprised girl tells them to look over there. Shocked, they ask if he defeated the monster. Meanwhile, the shadows face off against that stone monster. All the projectiles explode against the golem's body. Chunks of smoldering stone fly in all directions, and the creature falls to the ground defeated. Thick smoke can be seen above the tree line. On the big screen, everyone watches the scene in silence. The manager thinks that classifying him won't be possible. He's on the borderline and thought it was just a measuring error. He thinks it's still unclear, maybe. This could be a monster beyond his imagination. The girl asks if he really took that thing down, if that's what happened, and questions if that isn't actually great. Another operator asks, and if he is great, and thus has nothing to do with that test, while the girl asks, what? The girl continues and says she doesn't believe he can understand the current situation, and tells her to look carefully, because Jim Keel will reach the portal to the second floor first. The two girls stare at each other with hostility, while the man further back asks the manager if he wants them to remove the personnel stationed there. The boss replies no, that they should instruct them to send a report once they manage to find out the truth. Meanwhile, back in the forest, someone moves quickly, stopping only to look at his compass. Jim realizes it must be somewhere around there. He keeps searching through the trees, until suddenly something catches his attention. He suddenly stops running, and observes the surroundings. He realizes the mist is dissipating, so he imagines it must be over by now. But that doesn't matter as long as he gets there first. He thinks he'll destroy the compass later, that he'll run to the X and see. Nearby, the remains of the creature are scattered on the ground. Our hero pours his life force over that thing, preparing the ritual for his power. Then he summons his soul prison ability, and gives the summoning command for the new soldier. Through the operations room screen, people see everything. In shock, they ask what else he's doing and what that could be. Suddenly, a stone golem appears, now controlled by our hero. One of the men asks what the hell that is. The creature roars intimidatingly. Dae Sung says there's no time, so he tells it to stop posing and show its head. The creature looks a bit embarrassed and bows before him. He steps with his boot on the monster's head. Then he says, "Run, rock." Nearby, Jim seems to have found something. Looking at the portal, he says there's no way he won't be number one. But out of nowhere, something rushes past him very fast, and he is left speechless looking at it. In shock, he wonders what that bastard is. Back at the building where the exam is taking place, the general of the Harem clan walks through the place, hearing shocked voices from inside the room. Satisfied, he says he believes this is over now. The room door starts to open, and on the big screen it shows his candidate in shock, staring at something. The boy seems to have frozen in place. Angrily, the boss thinks he's an idiot. And right now, we can see our hero. He's sitting comfortably on the head of his newest friend. Then he orders it to follow this path because it's the fastest. Dae Sung says he'll make the road, so it should go straight, and he calls it Rockhead. He orders the flame king to blow, and a jet of fire shoots from his weapon. That huge stream of fire clears a path for the dense forest. Then he asks what it's doing and says, "Rock, run." The golem and our hero move along the road he just cleared. Then he commands the Flame King to blow again. In the control room, someone says number 104 used some kind of summoning technique, and another is impressed, saying he's using an unprecedented technique. One of them questions if that's possible with an aura technique, and the other replies that it's quite possible, since everything in this world is strange now. The girl says that regardless of whether it's a test or not, this will be on YouTube, and that he's playing like it's a fantasy movie. It's as if the competitors had danced. Someone suddenly punches a keyboard hard. The girls look over, surprised, and the men in the room as well. The general of the Harem clan looks quite irritated. The room remains silent after that. One of the men approaches him, saying that if he does that there, but he just looks at the guy with a furious glare, and one of his henchmen steps in front, telling the man to back off. The boss puts his hand on his head to recover, and apologizes, saying he was just very excited by that great performance. The captain thinks it's disgusting that he didn't anticipate any of this, no matter how meticulous you are. Either way, he thinks Shoyang will get there too. Back in the forest, Jin shouts, calling Dae Sung a bastard. Meanwhile, he looks back and sees another person running toward him. Surprised, he turns to get a better look, and sees it's Sho coming his way. She's coming at high speed, so that guy starts running too. Meanwhile, our hero reaches a cold area. He questions that the first floor was hot, but the second is cold, that they have no creativity. Then turning to the golem, he says, "Hey, Rockhead, good job." He dismisses his soldier, and in the next moment his bracelet begins to glow. The bot appears, congratulating candidate 104 for having crossed the portal to the second floor. Looking at the portal, he says no one else came and asks if he can start. Then it explains that the top 5 will start in different entry portals, and for now it will reveal the conditions to complete the second floor. Excited, the bot points to a mountain and says he must conquer the snowy mountain's peak. Our hero starts walking, and the little creature wishes him good luck. He thinks he can't measure exactly, but it must be something around 5 km. Dae Sung starts climbing that enormous mountain. As he climbs, followed by drones, he thinks this is pretty boring. He thinks he can't use them anymore while watching the drones rising with him. A noise catches his attention from below, so he looks and sees someone at the base of the mountain. He knows he heard that from a rank C or D, they earn money as carriers, but even so, they are awakened people. Jim curses the test for making everyone start in different places, and if it keeps annoying him like this, he won't be able to help it. Until he cuts that bastard down, he thinks he won't be satisfied. Something catches his attention from behind. Looking at that person from afar, he asks who else is there. Then he sees that old man coming and saying it's cold with a lot of difficulty, and that he can't move the tips of his fingers anymore. Jim looks seriously at the old man, and thinks that first of all, this fly. The desperate old man slaps his own face, saying that he can't take it, and that he must think of his family who died without even having the chance to scream. He yells that it's not that cold, but in the next moment, an avalanche reaches him. He starts screaming, begging for someone to save him. Jim, with a wicked look, tells him to go bite his tongue now, calling him a rude bastard, and tells that fly to go to hell. Suddenly on a screen it shows disconnected. The operators ask what happened again. Someone replies the transmission drone doesn't work, and a third says it looks like everything went down. Lee Seok just absorbs the situation, thinking that it looks like it's begun and hopes that Jinchul doesn't disappoint him again. The snow doesn't stop falling on that mountain. More people arrive and one of them asks if they really have to go all the way to the top. Showing determination to his companion, he asks if there's any problem with that because they're the most powerful of all combos. Then out of nowhere someone lands on him, stomping the guy who was giving a thumbs up. His companion is shocked by the scene, but the person grabs that guy by the head right after and roars in fury, overpowering the two guys. Excited and out of control, Jin says that the Orc Champion's vial has a fantastic effect and anyone who crosses his path will die. Meanwhile, Sho continues climbing and thinks the Hunter's connection is unstable. She wonders if all electronics suddenly broke. Right next to her, a drone seems to short circuit. Dae Sung observes this and concludes that it's broken. He says, "Great, let's take it slow now." Then he lets go of the mountain, giving the command to use another ability, the armor of the destroyer Dragon Valark. He starts falling, stretching his arms forward, and he keeps falling farther and farther. Nearby, Sho notices something happening and wonders what that is, that huge wave of aura. Then in the next moment, our hero appears flying with a pair of wings. Impressed by that, she wonders if number 104 is flying using aura. Dae Sung flies past the girl at high speed. Meanwhile, down below, Jim keeps tearing for the other candidates. The guy looks pretty wrecked down on the ground, until something catches his attention, and he sees our hero with wings spread in the air. He says that bastard and wonders if he took a harpy pull. The next instant, he lets go of his prey and starts running toward Dae Sung, shouting for number 104 to wait. Meanwhile, in the operations room, someone orders the test to be stopped immediately. The captain stares at the local manager. He asks if the safety of the awakened doesn't come first. Then the manager tells Captain Hwan Jun to wait a little longer. They will investigate this as soon as possible. Lee Seok laughs at that and sarcastically says that anyone who wants to become a hunter now can't take this kind of risk anymore and wonders if they can be called hunters. Turning to the man, he asks if that's not right, addressing the branch manager. The manager coughs under the pressure of the moment. Angrily, Hwan asks the young man if he was the one who did this. Smiling, he asks if it wouldn't be better if a weak hunter didn't become a hunter at all, if you made her that weak. The manager and the rest of the staff just watch tensely. Exploding with anger, the captain says, "That little snake," while the young man says that old man should retire. Back in the test, our hero reaches the top of that mountain. Looking at the gate, he asks if he can end it now, then starts walking toward the door. Still pushing forward, Sho continues climbing the mountainside, and Jim keeps up his climb too. Suddenly, from under a pile of snow, a hand emerges, and someone starts crawling out from underneath. Exhausted, that old man manages to free himself and collapses in the snow. He tries to catch his breath and thinks he won. He shouts that he won because he's not dead. Coming to his senses, he says that it's really cold and that he's going back down. The bot says it will begin explaining what's needed to complete the 3rd floor, to prepare to be attacked by monsters, kill monsters, and gather 1,000 points. While Sho scratches her head, the bot wishes her good luck. She realizes it's completely dark, and that she first needs to be careful until her vision adjusts. Suddenly someone calls her name, and Jim appears, overflowing with energy, asking if she also saw that guy flying just now. She looks at the guy and asks, "John Jinkyo." Then he says she was lucky to have gotten there before him. The girl doesn't seem to care much about him. She tells him not to make too much noise and to go his own way, calling him an orc. Jim clearly gets irritated at that. The girl remembers someone telling her to be careful with Dae Sung. She thinks that 104 is fast on both the 1st and 2nd floors. Then she stops to look at her bracelet, which reports an error in the aura reactor, when suddenly something hits her straight in the stomach. She's surprised by the attack. Jim, with a maniacal look, says he tried to give that to 104 first, but Looks like she's out of luck, he says, enjoying the situation while she's scared, saying with difficulty that John Jinkyul is a dog. On the terminal, it shows that the first special ability has been triggered. The fire cannon, its firepower isn't high, but it functions as a guided missile. He fires at several creatures attacking him, tells the Fire King to take care of it quickly, and the king obeys the command. He keeps firing at the creatures, eliminating them one by one. Looking at that pile of monsters on the ground, our hero says the Fire King took too long with those bastards. Speaking of which, he asks if the points aren't increasing, then turns away, leaving it behind, and says that before anything else, they'll get rid of everything they're seeing. In the operations room, the manager asks on the phone if the network hasn't recovered yet. Lee thinks that combining the hook component's pulse with the ampoule wasn't a bad idea. Looking satisfied with everything, he mentally apologizes to Huang, and even if Shin Sho is alive, she must be half-blind or crippled. Back at the test site, someone has their life force dripping onto the ground. Feeling the attack, Sho asks what he was doing during the test. He mocks her, saying he thinks she was kind of soft, and asks if she used her aura shield. But in the middle of the provocation, something changes, and Sho is already on top of him, attacking. She hits the guy square in the face, knocking him back. He tries to steady himself on the ground, and furiously asks, what the hell? But looking forward again, he no longer sees the girl. He laughs and asks if Captain Huang taught her hide and seek because she's a bitch. Sho, hiding in a corner, tries to treat her wounds. She uses her power while thinking she needs to recover quickly, but suddenly Jim appears like a sadistic monster, saying he found her. She quickly removes her coat and throws it in Jim's face, catching him off guard. Even more surprised, she lands a solid kick in the guy's sensitive area. He screams in pain, covered by the coat. Then in sequence, she knees him in the face, sending him stumbling back and knocking the coat off his face with the impact. He looks dazed and tries to recover from the attack. Preparing to fight, she says her name is not bitch. It's Shin Sho, champion of the Soul Clan, then lands a powerful blow to her enemy's stomach. This time, Jim seems to feel the strength of the attack, and goes flying and spinning, getting thrown backward. That guy hits the ground completely wrecked. Furious, she says he's filthy and rude like a monster, and adds, "You're right, leader." She spits, mocking the guy, and turns to walk away. In the operations room, Wong thinks he didn't raise her to be weak. Our hero says this is insane, that thing broke. Half desperate, he wonders what he should do now, and calls out to the organizers, asking if he could just leave and ask them. Then finally, he goes on his way, cursing the situation. Sho wonders why she can't see any of the other candidates, when out of nowhere, something passes very quickly beside her. One of the candidates falls in front of her, and behind her, Jin reappears, apparently fully regenerated. In fury, he calls for Shin Sho. Without thinking twice, she runs off, escaping the situation. She wonders what he did to the guy, if he killed the other candidate. Then without warning, something appears in front of her, and Jim appears, hitting her squarely with his arm. He looks at her with a crazed expression. He crouches down and starts punching the girl. She tries to defend herself the best she can. Grabbing her by the hair, he tells her to let out, cursing at her, then adds that he's going to kill her painfully. Jim keeps hitting her without mercy. The girl clearly feels the attacks. Pulling her in close, he tells her to beg for help. Maybe someone might hear and come running to save her. Ironically, he says, "Well, wait, the communication equipment is broken. I'm sorry." While the guy laughs in satisfaction, the girl jabs both fingers into his eyes. He falls backwards, screaming in pain, and releases Sho. With his arm over his eyes, he curses the girl. While she thinks she needs to recover quickly, she needs to escape. Something starts happening in the guy's eyes, while she tries to crawl away as fast as she can. Then the man calls her name, grabbing her by the neck again, saying playtime is over now. With red eyes full of rage, he tells her to die now. But suddenly, someone gets his attention, and our hero arrives just in time, asking what he's doing. Excited by the situation, Jim says it's number 104, then drops the girl all battered on the ground, and starts laughing like a madman. He welcomes number 104 and says he was looking for him. Disappearing from where he stood, he thanks him for coming all the way there. Suddenly, Jim appears right on top of our hero, who seems calm. Dae Sung simply steps forward a bit, dodging the guy's attack, going over to the girl. Confused and surprised, he wonders how. Mjolnir's show, he says it must hurt like hell, and that it looks like she's recovering slowly, so it must have been a really deep wound. Dae Sung glances over his shoulder and sees the other guy staring at him. With that crazy look, Jim tells number 104 that it seems he has some talent, but our hero ignores the comment and simply asks if he was the one who did that. Jim explains that she couldn't understand the situation, so he gave her a proper education and laughing, says that he'll be like that soon. Then our hero says just one word, no. He asks if it was the guy who broke the meter, but Jim only watches him laughing, and clapping his hands he uses a storm wave attack. Then Dae Sung notices his bracelet being affected. That guy says he completely forgot about the emergency protection, but it's broken, and that our hero is out of luck. Suddenly, very fast, Dae Sung punches the guy in the face. He flies backward, bouncing off the ground. With his hand on his face, he calls our hero a bastard. Dae Sung gives him no time and uses the fire cannon ability. Jim gets nervous and tries to defend himself. A bunch of projectiles flies in his direction, but he says that his talent isn't lesser than Dae Sung's. However, in the next moment, something surprises him. Our hero is right in front of him, followed by his commanded soldiers. Dae Sung says that this bastard is messing with his terrible temper. In the operations room, someone tells the manager that the second floor's network has been restored. Then he asks about the third floor, but the woman says it's still in the process of server replacement, so it'll take another 30 minutes. The manager orders a security team to be deployed to the second floor and instructs them to wait at the third floor gate, the girl confirms. Lee says the manager should take all the time he needs and sarcastically asks if they aren't supposed to be hunter candidates. And Captain Huang thinks he really is a snake's offspring. At that moment, the door opens, and someone rushes in, calling for the branch manager. He reports that the security team informed them there was a death and several injuries on the second floor. The man is shocked and asks what. Lee just looks at him satisfied, and Captain Huang looks a bit worried about it. On TV, the news reports that the video transmission failed during the hunter test, and that's the information they've had for a whole hour. Shanho thinks that's where his friend is taking the test. He grabs his jacket and rushes out thinking he has to go immediately. Back in the test, someone is moving very fast. Jim starts running thinking that person is the devil, that he is the devil in person. Suddenly, something passes by him tearing off his leg. Jim screams in pain from the attack and crashes to the ground, tumbling at high speed. Not believing it, he thinks this can't be.